Oh,
We are recording.
wow. This is a great name to type
That's
right on the first
nice.
thingy.
Wow.
Okay, cool. So
Or pronouncing it if that's.
yeah, I'm not
on
trying to
interest.
do that, right? Like I don't want to insult people. Yes. So this is the one. So pretty interesting topic, and I just need the branch name. That's the only thing that I need, right? Okay, cool. Git checkout. Cool. Git pull and GDK. I think my GDK is running. I don't know.
Well, you'll have to
It's
restart.
Eisenberg GPK. Until you check, you won't know.
GDK restart Rails webpack and background services, whatever they do, nobody understands. Like I think they're just I think that okay. Cool. So now let's use an editor. So to give you some context, in the last front-end call, we had this great call out about the spam stuff, and that the spam stuff is essentially that we now have this Axios interceptor, which we can just use if we want to handle, you know, a reCAPTCHA, showing a reCAPTCHA. And we already have a GraphQL implementation.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, let's generalize this, right?
Cool.
And generalizing it with a link, it also showed some downsides with the current approach. So there are also backend changes. Because right now, basically, the backend expects us to send all the spam stuff as part of the GraphQL query. And the problem is, if it's part of the GraphQL query, you basically need to add it like in all the mutations and all the, you know, you need to add it in the fields as part of the those mutations. And then it's very hard to write a generalized thing because you would need to know where to set which variable. And so I've changed the approach and to be like, hey, why don't we set it as an HTTP header, right? So, and the idea here though is, and this is really weird because I don't know much about observers, and I heavily borrowed. There is a Apollo retry link which just does arbitrary retries based on some conditions. I borrowed their logic, reduced it a little bit down to say, hey, you know, because I don't need arbitrary retries, I want to show you the modal if there's a CAPTCHA, and otherwise just, you know, then try to resend it once. It's not like I'm going to do this 10 times, right?
Yep.
So there's like less logic involved. But I wonder if, because it still feels like overhead, I created a class, I wonder if we can reduce this. And so this would, you know, obviously also change how the tests work, unit tests at least. And so I was wondering if we could maybe somehow reduce this observable, right?
That'd be interesting.
Okay, cool. While I was talking, I hope that my IDE was like, oh yeah, this is other stuff that I did. That my IDE is finished doing things. Cool. So the idea here is like, instead of, so Apollo links, we remember have an operation and forward. So forward whatever returns an observable, but rather than doing that directly, I'm doing like return new observable. I create a CAPTCHA operation, and you know, basically the CAPTCHA operation does a normal forward, right? So this is like the normal thing that, you know, pass it on, whatever happens next. And after this, we're subscribing to that observable that's returned here, right? And in case we get a response, we check if there's an error, and if the error needs a CAPTCHA, we're showing the CAPTCHA, setting the headers, and, you know, calling the execute function again, right? And I don't know, because this feels like a lot of overhead for, like, I want to do a retry with an observer. It feels like a lot of overhead to have this, how how you call it, this this class, right, to instantiate an
Sure.
object, and I have the fear because this now happens on every request, right? I
Mhm.
wonder if we should have like a bailout somehow that you say, hey, on the front end still, especially as we currently just have one root. Ooh, thanks. This is whiskey chocolate fudge ice cream, I believe.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah. Getting drunk while eating ice cream. It's great.
Wow.
No, and I have some Coke, so it's whiskey and Coke and chocolate. Great.
Oh man,
Um,
I think this is a good chemical combination for pair program driving.
Yes. And this was just to give you context, right? And
Yes.
so I would be
Yes.
happy if we could reduce this to have the same functionality without, creating new objects, unless necessary. And I, to be honest,
Yeah.
like don't know what the overhead is, or writing tests for it, and or
So
right.
if I'm hearing you correctly, you're talking about there's might be an opportunity to simplify what's there.
Yes.
And we might want to see if we can conditionally run this link, because there's probably some requests we don't need to even do any of this.
So the idea is actually that this check should be rather, if we just, this check is rather cheap, right? Because it just checks the errors. And I assume that like an error that a find on an error is like trivial, like on an array, right? I assume like I'm just worried with the instantiation of these objects. That's the thing that I'm worried about. I think if we're not instantiating those, we should be fine.
And I think it sounds like the first thing we want to do is actually forward. Like I would say, it sounds like our link, the smallest thing we could do is, because we only ever want to do stuff if the condition is after we've gotten something back, if it has that error, then we want to do stuff. So I feel like we shouldn't ever see the new keyword or anything until like when we do Apollo capture link, let's just forward it on, and let's get the response thing. And then if we get that error, then that's when maybe we can create a new object if that makes things look more maintainable or whatever. But like, yeah, I agree. It sounds like this might be a little bit of overhead for every request.
So the only question is, and I don't know observables that well, right? Because the problem is if I'm just doing like return forward operation, right? Then I would subscribe on this one, and I would have like an on next, right? This is the thing that we care about. I mean, there's also on error and whatnot. And I would do my logic here, right? And in promises, I would just return a new promise, and then the promise chain kind of thing takes care of it. But if I'm like in an observable,
observables are very, very similar. But observables are like take a promise, you get a single value. Observable is very, very similar to that, but now you can get a bunch of values. And so you can actually map an observable. And that's kind of what we would do. We would want to forward it, but then whatever I get as my response, if I get one of these GraphQL error things, I may want to map that value to something else. So we don't have to necessarily do a whole subscription. We can also just map an observable.
So when I tried mapping it and then return, like, what do I return then? Because I basically need to run the forward again.
And so this brings up a really good question. So yeah, what are we going to do? So that's what I'm curious about too. What's going to happen if, the dialogue pops up, you got a CAPTCHA.
Let me show it to you. I will remove this.
Yeah,
again,
let's do that. Let's do that. Because I'm a little curious too. That bit is, I'm not.
Yes. So let's see here. Okay, I'm filtering for GraphQL already, right?
Nico, I had to flip through my cameras. I'm like, is Nico still here? Is he okay?
Cool. Let's go on.
Silently listening.
So we have this is our edit.
Sweet.
And this is a user that always gets a captcha, right? This is like a bad person.
Oh man. Well, they're just a robot person. Hey.
Yes.
Robots.
No, it's right. And okay. So this is the whole flow.
Yes.
And so the thing that happens is like this should be our first post, right? And in the first post, I have an error. The error says, hey, needs kept, like extensions is a thing in GraphQL. You have an error object with message, location, and path. This is all related to the GraphQL query. An extension is the stuff where you can put arbitrary stuff. So we put all the stuff in here, like regarding captchas, right? And then, we show the modal. And once the modal is resolved, we just forward in the link again. So, and here we just on the request, on the headers, set the spam log ID and this is actually wrong, and the captcha response, right?
So what happens? So this happy path makes sense. What happens when the user just closes the modal?
Very transparent it should be. So let me just show you. We basically trigger a normal on next. So let me just cancel. And then you should
saving is still.
Yes, so that's actually funny because I think it should just work. I don't know why it doesn't work right now. So normally we are now giving you the old error that we had. So you should see the GraphQL error here, like like your snippet has been recognized as spam. So you should see this error on the top level here, right? Like, and maybe this observer next. Maybe I need to complete. No, this is like catch result, like this. So it basically, this is the catch, right? Because we are like checking that you solved the captcha, and we should have just forwarded the original error object or the original response to the front end, right? Maybe I don't know if I would have needed to like observer error.
Does the captcha model throws? Because that's the catch of the import.
Yes,
can we add some?
No. I mean, it should throw here, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, no,
this throws.
Can we add a couple of logs just for fun?
Yes, sure. So console log captcha not solved.
Got a captcha. Oh.
And I mean, we actually should also have the error, right? Like captcha solved. Yeah. And this is funny because spam log ID, this is actually wrong, right? Because this should be spam log ID. It's funny that it even worked.
Still worked. Yeah, that's interesting.
Let me also think, because I could be no, never mind. It's all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, let's try again. What does the console say?
Oh, that worked.
Yes. Maybe because it didn't change anything.
I think maybe it's because the description just was the change rather than that's Okay. And we cancel.
Get here. I canceled. Sorry.
That's okay.
What?
Whoop. Uh-oh.
I'm okay.
That was a double. Oh, maybe there was.
Can you turn off the performance bar?
Yes.
So we don't have a million logs.
Usually I'm using warnings. Okay, let's try again. Save. Cancel.
Do we want to look at?
It didn't throw.
It didn't do anything. Yeah.
I mean, wait for captcha to be solved. Like, I mean, it does throw, right? Like it rejects.
Wait, but if you go back, we didn't receive a response. We just canceled, right? On hidden, is that the thing that we want to do something on?
Let me try something out real quickly. Imso, ciao. Ciao. I'm just trying with a new snippet because it might be that console log. no, what?
So here's another, this is crazy go nuts idea.
Yeah.
And Nico and IP help me out. What we're doing with, okay, this thing that's catching, hey, there's a CAPTCHA issue.
Yes.
Handling that here by saying, okay, we need to now show the modal and do all this stuff. We're really coupling ourselves to I think this modal UX. Is it possible that I could have?
No, we don't, because sorry for this is wait for CAPTCHA to be solved, and that doesn't mean that it's a modal or anything. If in the future, for example, we move to another CAPTCHA solution that would just do some calculation, mining some Bitcoins or whatever, and doesn't show you a modal, it just needs to return a promise, right? So like, and this is actually what we're targeting, right? Like
but my question is it possible? And my gut tells me it's possible, although very unlikely, to have two CAPTCHAs on the same screen. So let's say it's not a modal, but let's say it's like an embedded little box. Could I have two forms and it's like, oh, I've submitted this one and now I have a little box, and then I go to submit another one, now I have a little box. Like, how is it going to know?
I think a UX person will jump at your throat and choke you when the moment that you suggested two CAPTCHAs on the same page.
I'm not suggesting it.
I'm just super confused as to why it's not doing anything right now. Like,
can you check the source code of the CAPTCHA to be solved, and what does it do on cancel button?
Yes, no, it actually it will reject. It's 100% sure that it will reject.
But so the console log will be there.
So yeah, but even solving, which I just now didn't log anything. That's what I'm concerned about, right? Like, I'm super confused as to why. I mean, you know what I'm going to do? Like, hey, this should be really easy. Console one link. Right? Like, even here, link.
Are you not getting any logs, you think?
Where's Zelda?
I know.
Maybe it's because I turned off the performance bar.
Princess. Did you ever watch the Zelda cartoon?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's like the worst thing ever. You have, Zelda and Link's kind of hanging out at the castle, and they gotta go to the forest. And one of Link's catchphrases is, "Well, excuse me, princess." It's really bad. You should watch the Zelda cartoon.
It makes no sense.
You're not getting anything. Well, you're on view right now. You're not on edit, right?
Yes, but I mean, this should be executed on any GraphQL query, like anything. Yeah. And I mean, we're doing them, right? Like,
if you go back to your console.
Yeah. Am I maybe filtering by something, or?
Why there is an error that is not shown? You have a red dot.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. It was the wrong.
It was the wrong
console.
It had to do this embedded console thing.
Yes. No, I had it. I was working on the keyboard help modal, right? And the keyboard help modal is so large that, yeah. Anyhow, sorry. Now we have it, right? Save changes, CAPTCHA link.
Oh, man.
Yeah, this is from reCAPTCHA. So cancel, CAPTCHA not solved, unsolved CAPTCHA error, and so on. The thing is, and this is why I don't understand, we actually send it down the line like the original result, right? Like we sending it, like, so we going here. The question is like how does the mutation handle errors? So how is this thing called? I think it's edit view, right? And we just have to see like the mutation here and base object errors.
Base object is the input.
Yes. So let's maybe just console log
data.
Wait, this makes no sense. It should check the data, right? Oh no, base object. Ah, yes, this makes sense because we moved the arrows. Before the arrows were on the update snippet,
Right.
but now the
it's
arrows
part of
are
its
on
own
the top
thing.
level.
That makes
Yes.
sense. So it's gonna be data, comma, errors. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So
So we can get rid of line 173 then, right? We can just get rid of it, right?
I mean, there could still be errors on the object, I believe.
But
I don't
we need
know.
another name, so on the left of the assignment. No.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, let me just do this then. Oh gosh, this is ugly.
Wait.
Whoa, man. Whoa.
Like, because it seems to be that errors can be null, right? Like, and so like this will definitely now be arrays, right?
I would say that's going to be an array. I would say, I think you put enough brackets there.
It starts to look like Lisp instead of JavaScript.
It is. Yeah. Okay. So now I should show it. Should save, cancel, and you should get the flash. Where's the flash? Like,
do you want to console log what we're getting with errors, maybe?
Response, and then we do data errors, right?
Yeah.
Can you 3 arguments to console warn?
You can give as many as you want. Like, it will just.
I think just like log. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just interested in response.
Somebody revokes my senior level, please.
He doesn't use console log. How does he debug? Does he even debug? What's Nico doing?
Yes. So it's interesting because apparently, like,
wait, I didn't see the log. What happened?
Like nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, it's not even going through.
So I mean, it also console error. Is there like no error? So that's funny. So apparently we go here, but what the observer does, like, I wonder if we need to complete the observer, that maybe Apollo down the chain is waiting on more things.
Yep, that would be a thing for sure.
Oh, my ice is melting. Shoot, maybe not the best way to drive.
I can drive if you want to eat, man. Or Nico can drive. I drove last time, I think.
It's fine. I just need to remind, like, to get a bite from time to time.
Oh, man.
Yes, see, there it is.
Gotta complete your observables, man. But yeah, so like with I think that you can I think that we can map this, but what we're actually doing is mapping to another observable. So you can actually flat map observables. So we can map each value we see to another observable, and then it will expand that as well. So I think flat map might be what we're wanting to do here.
Okay, let's see if they have flat map.
But it might be called something fancy in an observable world.
So they have off, they have from, they have subscribe. That's the thing that we're doing currently.
Yep.
There's map.
Wait, there's one. There's filter, map, reduce,
and concat.
Yes. They don't have flat map.
It's time for a PR poll.
Can you look up RxJS flat map? Because we can write this ourselves. It's not hard, but like this is what we want to do. And I think if you add a new tab, RxJS flat map,
flat MPA.
They may have that one too. I'm joking. Yeah, in the tab that.
Oh, they have flat map. They just documented.
Yeah, there we go. That's what we want to do. So this is what it looks like. If you go to, I love the RxJS diagrams. They're so cool.
No, it's not even RxJS, right?
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So what?
Okay, so if I can flat map, so actually, let me just check flat map. So
Oh.
what flat map does? It
I would check out the diagram. So you have an observable that's sending items down the pipe.
Yeah.
But then we have a function that creates observables. And this is this one that can take 10, 10, 10. So then for everything that comes down the pipe, we're now going to have all of that. We're going to have that observable spread till it completes. And that's going to be on the pipe now.
So quick question. Can we also return non-observables?
So then you just use a regular map. So like flat map would be, it's like returning a promise and a then of a promise. That's kind of what flat map is like doing.
Okay.
Where if I wanted to just do a regular map, I just want to map this value to another value, I could do that. But I see we're returning a promise. A promise can easily be mapped to an observable. So you can just use observable.of for the promise or something. So we can map each thing we see in the observable, we can map it to an observable from a promise too.
Cool. So the thing that we then do here is pretty simple. We are basically doing flat map, and this is the result, right?
Yeah, that would be the on next thing we see. Yep.
Yes, and I mean, I honestly don't just care about on next because the rest is just the same, right? Like, cool. So I can actually, do this. And you're saying instead, I'm just doing return observable off from.
So we're gonna want to return a so up there where we have if it's a captcha error, we want to return that promise, it seems like, right? Does that make sense? But we can map a promise to an observable. The Zen observable should have that. If it has of or from, I think it should have that.
That's the wrong documentation. There is from, for sure.
Yes.
It was there in the source.
Yeah. If you go up to of, from implementation. Otherwise, it is with from other. Let me do a search for Zen observable promise.
I don't know. It's a super small implementation. Like,
well, it's either way. We can create this helper function. It's pretty trivial.
From if type is function.
See, it's doing one like if it has an array. Yeah.
No, has iterator is array, doesn't do one that's like. But I mean, to be honest, like should be super easy because we can just do like return a new.
Yep, we could do it like that. Yeah.
Observable, right? And then it's observer. And then we just do import, then console1, capture required. I don't care about this anymore. And we just do observer next complete. Oh, geez, this is like, because here we would return, here we want basically to do like, oh, geez, because here we basically, no, this is like super. Can we make this an async function and just use await and then return sync?
Wait, what do you want to do?
I want to make this one await. No, async. Sorry.
Wait.
I want this to be how do you do this? Like,
I don't think you can make flat map async.
sure.
Why? If it doesn't
Then it's
support
going to
a promise
return a
inside?
promise, and it's not going to return an observable, right? And I think this library is going to expect us to return an observable, not a promise of observables.
But you can.
Promise
Can't
observable. It's
can't
actually
you convert from outside.
But I don't. But describe to me what are you wanting to do? Why did you want to use async?
So the thing here is basically here. Here we would need to do forward, whatever. What is it? Forward operation again, right? Like, and I'm in the same stuck thingy. Like, how?
So wait. Here's what you're gonna do: forward operation dot subscribe the observer.
That's it.
Yeah.
Why, Paul? Because I'm lost now.
So if I'm not entirely sure why we want to do this, but if I understood what IP was talking about, if you wanted to take our observable here and you want to bring it over to forward again, we could just call forward and just subscribe whatever observer now is going to receive whatever forward gets. I'm not sure why we want to do that, but no, we don't have to wait or anything or do anything recursive. We can just trigger that. We can just subscribe to that observable again with a new observer. But why don't we have a result here? Don't we want to just
didn't you just make the loop this way? That's why I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we want to do this.
So if we so this is basically a loop with the length of 1. This is not recursive.
Oh, but it's not a loop because now we have the CAPTCHA information. So now we're ready to do it all over again. We have the CAPTCHA information. So it's not a forever loop. We are doing this.
It's a one-step retry.
Yeah.
But this dot operation is something that is still valid, the context now.
That's true.
Nope.
So we want to
use
where's operation coming from?
Operation is like what we get from the Apollo link.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, chances are this isn't going to be completely right the first time, but I think it's already a little cleaner.
And where we are doing the if outside of this, right?
The if is here. Like, so we send the query, we get a result, we check the result for the error. If the error, so let's go the happy path first, right? We've got no captcha error. We just return the result again.
And I think you want to use, I think you need to use of.
Yes. So, this is the happy path. Like we go in here, we check, nothing found. We just return it. And this is the error path where it's like, hey, solve the captcha thing. If the captcha, we return a new observable. And if the captcha is then solved, we just do the operation once again and subscribe. This is like a bit confusing because we basically,
restart the flow, right? Like this.
Yeah.
And the errors is not going to be set the second time because when we do subscribe, in this case, we are firing a new request. Yeah, that's the flow. This
is like first request, second request.
Second request.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, this is saying that we continue to subscribe until there is an error. Until there is a captcha error.
We continue to subscribe until there is a captcha error?
No, this will just
if the backend sends again an error with captcha error, you will get in a loop here.
Oh, this is actually a good. No, this is a good point. I assume if the backend would return something bad, and we can try this out in a second, we can actually you will just see the error. So it would be the same as canceling. So if you're like caught in a captcha loop or whatever, you would see that error. Like, and why we
Yeah,
did
no,
see
this
it
is
now,
good, but until there is that captcha error in the thing, this will keep going. That's just so that I understand the observer logic, because I got lost here.
So you
So
did, so what don't you understand? Like,
no, look, I ask a precise question. Until captcha error at line 51 is true, it doesn't matter how many times we will re-enter this and recall ourselves.
No, if this is false, we're not going to hit our conditions.
No, okay, that's why I say until that is true,
yes.
we keep calling ourselves. Okay, now I got what
Well,
we're doing.
I think forward is actually going to just keep going forward. I don't know if forward is going to actually go through the whole. I think it may just go to the next Apollo link too. So as IP said, I don't know if there's something recursive going on here because we're not.
No. It's pretty simple. Let me just, maybe I can open next to the code. I can open the Apollo link documentation.
I don't know if I would say it's pretty simple. Like even observables, I wouldn't.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to be condescending or something.
No, you're good.
Like, what's this? Why isn't this like? Is this a picture or what? So imagine this is our captcha thingy, right? Like this is our captcha. So we come down the first time, we forward, we get the captcha error, we are like, oh God, we got the captcha error, please solve the captcha. User solves the captcha, we are like, oh, you solved the captcha, that's nice.
Yeah.
And then we forward, back.
But we're not subscribing to that second response. And that's the thing. We're not looking for that second response. So I don't think there'll be, it could be, but I don't
Are
think
we not?
recursive.
We are doing forward.subscribe.
But we're not creating the line 56 observable anymore. We're not doing that whole condition. We're not doing that. This observer is going to be
okay, that's the bit that I was missing. Perfect.
It's a different observer. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the naming confuses me horribly.
No, it's definitely trippy, and it's
the only question now is like, why didn't it go through?
Yeah, that's a good question. Can we go back to our? I want to compare with the code that was working. So we're doing.
It's gone.
Okay, that's good.
So the difference before was, instead of using the flat map, I created one observer that I returned here, right? And I basically operated on that one. I created one observable, and I was basically just working all of the time on this one observer. You know what I mean? Like,
yep. And you were basically doing the flat map. Like you're basically manually doing that, and we could do that. But I'd like to see. I'm curious. Did we send the right parameters down when we forwarded the operation? I
mean, I changed something here that confused me, because this was apparently sending the wrong thing. It could be that our logic with the backend is just a little bit broken. Like it could be, because there are basically three things. First thing is like that you tell reCAPTCHA, hey, this is a captcha for the site. This is the captcha site key. Then we have a spam log ID, and the spam log ID is actually, that the backend knows, hey, the solution that I'm getting now is actually for this captcha that was solved.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is the captcha response, the solution, right? So I just wonder, like, if we did something wrong here.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's check it out.
Okay. Edit. I'm just going to, sad. Maybe sad.js is actually happy, right? Okay, let's try it here. And we got our GraphQL query, the first one, right? That just happened.
Yep.
Response. Here is no header whatsoever. We just click yay.
So that should be us forwarding it along.
Yes, and it worked.
And it worked. Cool.
I just want to because it seems like the spam log, something is wrong with the spam log ID.
Sure.
Either the spam log ID doesn't matter at all, or something is broken. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, but it seems to work.
Yeah. Nico, you've gone fuzzy, man.
Yeah,
This autofocus. Mine was doing this.
absorbing thing.
So here we can actually remove the braces even.
Ooh. See, this is where observables get really sweet, man.
When you remove the braces.
When you remove the braces. Yeah, and you're like, man, I can eat hard candy now. Yeah.
I've never had braces, so I cannot relate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me neither.
Well,
yeah. I never had to brace myself. Winter's already here. Yeah, no, cool. Like now I'm just confused, like happy, make this an act.
uh-oh.
What?
Auto reload.
But why did the auto reload a different page?
Did it load a different page?
Or maybe I just hit like comment. Let me just try again.
Can we cancel it?
I'm canceling. We get the error. It's funny though that the error is like double encoded, but that's not the biggie.
Yep.
Saving again. I'm not a robot. And now I'm getting an error again. Oh, yeah, the error wasn't cleared, right? So one of the things that we probably should do in the edit app is we should have like a Flash API failure. We should clear the, before updating, we should clear a Flash that might have existed from a previous.
Yeah. But wait,
Yeah.
Why would that flash? Why would it did look like it reflashed, right? But I agree. So before we update, we need to clear out our Flash. Oh, what's that big error message?
This is probably like, unexpected error, GraphQL error.
Oh yeah, that looks like a console error I would add.
So let's try again. Comment.
Thanks. Oh yeah.
Cool.
I didn't do anything.
I mean, you ask questions,
You
so this is always good.
It is always good.
Oh, this is interesting. Like, what? So apparently it's causing, this is super confusing. I think I know what? No, this makes no sense.
I think that if you go back to edit.
No, it does make sense. You just eat the global error handling of Apollo this way.
No. I think if you go to edit.view, you see it's being called in edit.view. I think
but it's Apollo error.
No,
yes.
No. Well,
182. So it's probably the mutation, right?
Yes,
no, absolutely not.
It's funny because it seems like, so that's interesting. I don't understand. No, I understand. So I assume that if you have top level error objects on.
Yep. Yes, it is. This is very related to, have you talked to Natalia about, like, Natalia was, knows all about these Apollo errors, and that's why we did errors on the model itself, because otherwise it's considered something bad happened in the whole request.
There is two types of error: user recoverable errors and user unrecoverable errors, basic and request errors actually. So it's three. When they are inside the model, it means that a piece of the query or a piece of the mutation went wrong and the rest may have gone well.
Yes.
Right?
So it's funny because we basically will never hit this one, right? Like with the captcha stuff, we will never.
With the captcha, no.
But shouldn't captcha then be, that's a user recoverable error? Like, shouldn't that?
So
yes.
Let's give you a different perspective on that. We could do it that way, but then it will be pretty hard because we don't know where we need to put and read stuff in this generalized Apollo link, right? You would need to go through every object and see if errors are on there. That's generally good. But give you my most apt analogy that I have for the CAPTCHA is it's like authorization, right? It's like a second authorization. And I don't know, and that's actually something I wanted to try out. Like, what happens if you write a GraphQL query that tries to get like a project you don't have access to? Because
you just don't get the project. You don't receive any error. You receive a null. I can tell you for sure.
Okay. What if you want to try to update something that exists and you don't have access to?
And then you get an authorization error, or the result doesn't exist.
Yes.
So go back. Can you go back to our query, or
to the query?
Can you go to our mutation to the yes? What? And I had this idea with Chad when he was working on it, and put the spam stuff very specific just to this mutation. What if when I made a mutation like update snippet, there was a second object that I query for called spam error?
I talked to Alex about this, who wrote the backend parts of this, right, or helped me write it. And the problem with that is that the way that our controllers work. So if you actually have the mutation, how is it called? The update mutation. We put like all these kind of things here, right? Mm-hmm. And these all relate to the snippet somehow automatically, right? And if you were to edit like a second object here, like a spam variable or whatever,
that's going to be a different resolver.
It makes like the backend harder, and we would need to change all of the backend stuff. And and actually, really funny that you mention it, because Alex actually says like, hey, let's maintain both, and Chat that actually is like, hey, the solution with the headers, like this is his response why the solution with the headers is actually quite nice, and why we should go for the solution with the headers, right? Like,
so having, instead of, we get headers in our GraphQL response as opposed.
I think we are talking about two different things. So the headers is to send the capture things, but Paul was asking if we could have a spam type that in the response, right?
Yes, but then it would still mean that writing like a generalized. You mean like that you have something like this?
Yeah. It's not a generalized. It's a type, and you attach it everywhere that can be spam.
Oh yeah,
but it's funny though, because it's not. It's funny though, because what's
funny about it?
And then you can check the response of the query. If there is spam inside, do your spam thing.
Yeah, I mean that potentially would maybe doable. I don't know if you just, because in the response, so instead of errors you would have a spam thingy, but still, like, how would I know where I look? Because adding a second top level result doesn't make any sense, right? Because everything that comes as a result of the update snippet mutation will be inside of here, right? So I cannot have like a spam top level here in the response, because everything
you can't. Mm-hmm.
Because everything that happens as part of the update snippet must be inside of the part of the update snippets, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So, and adding something like, it would be maybe doable to add something on a top level, so that it's not part of errors, but that would not be GraphQL.
So right? I do hear you then, but I'm going to go back then, and I'm going to challenge you on.
Challenge me
on your. And it's a really good point, and I think there's different alternatives. They all have their trade-offs, but I think the simplest thing would be, if we can only have one route, that should actually be really easy for us to traverse. I get an object back. Let's just go to the first key and look at the errors there. So rather than putting the errors at the top, treating this spam as a top-level error, which could cause issues like this, because this is actually user recoverable error, and our link. Let's just go to the first key And
Can I, sorry,
to,
Abby,
to
can
be
I
honest,
see it?
another thing why I'm saying like, hey, this maybe I don't want you. I have no idea about GraphQL, right? And we have now this thing where we're sending errors down the drain. And to be honest, like this is not something in a GraphQL spec with the errors being part of the object. This is actually something that GraphQL Ruby recommends, right?
Okay.
And to be honest, like this and why don't we have different error handling based on the type of error that happened?
Yeah.
Right?
No, I totally get what you're saying. So what I'm talking about is we go back to our, and I know we gotta hop off, but we go back to the new code that we were writing. Can you go back to the observable code we were writing?
Yes. Observable. Yeah.
Yes. There we go. So change line 5.
Change line 5.
Line 5. So we would do result. So first we're gonna do result.data.
You mean like traversing through the object?
Since we can only have one key there, like it's gonna
You're
be
sure? Because this basically gives you captchas on all the things, right? Like even on
you're not.
Well, I mean, that's my one suggestion was, how about in our mutation, we have another key that we request. But if we can only have one key, then it's like, hey, we should just be able to just go, yeah, just like that. And then get the errors from there. So all of it to say, like, I think
this is something that we could discuss on the MR. The other thing that I would basically have done here is like, hey, doing the right thing. And we would have said like, in my opinion, right thing. I would have said like, hey, in the edit handler, you could say like, hey, if E instance of, the unsolved capture error, do something better.
And I think that'd be really sweet. It'd be really nice to solve errors in just one spot. I do know Apollo treats those errors on 181 like those are like very special. Something went really bad with Apollo, and so Natalia has a much better perspective of this than I do. I ran into this when I was doing some testing, but I know that like this dot catch means something really bad happened in Apollo land. But that was just my interpretation.
I mean, we're changing Apollo land, right? Like it actually means like something bad happened in GraphQL land. And I assume that if you get an authorization error or the GraphQL endpoint is down, you will actually end up in the same catch, right? Like you would end up here if you are not authorized to edit the snippet, right? Like, so, and to me, like not solving the captcha is like an authorization thing.
Well, I don't know, because it's still a successful response. I feel like it could be a domain, and it's definitely a gray area. Like I think you could put it could fit in both. I think it could be a domain specific error, but I can understand too it not being like that.
The reality is that it depends on how the backend endpoint type is configured for every mutation.
But I think
even though there is a rule about it,
I think on the plus side, there's lots of options there. Like I think we could traverse the object. That doesn't seem like that'd be that difficult. But I think there's lots of options. But dude, this looks so sweet. This is a really, really awesome way to approach the captcha stuff. So it looks really sweet. I'm glad we got to do some observable stuff. I love touching that stuff. So that was a lot of fun.
Would just be great if Apollo at some point uses actual observables, right?
Yeah, RX is like actually really optimized. Like they have tree shaking, like because they have a glorious amount of operations you could do, but they treat tree shaking really seriously. It's pretty cool. Dude, Nico, IP, it was awesome seeing you all. I'll catch you all later.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.